Hell yeah.
Knock to the Brandlin. Looks to cut through. Brandlin to the net. He scores!
10 seconds left of the man advantage. Scandella intercepts. Plays it ahead for Holla. Holla racing after it. Shorthanded for Minnesota. He has Zucker with him. Zucker scores! Charlie Coyle from the blue line toward the empty net. Bufflin with a save. Stall after the loose puck. Perreault controls. And the horn sounds. Minnesota wins a wild one in Winnipeg. 6-5 the final here tonight.
Welcome, Giles and the Goalies podcast, episode 93.
Yeah.
Peter Nedved edition. I am Giles Farrell, back in the my natural habitat, if you can't hear by the background music. Next to me at the table is Ben Remington.
Hello.
Who is wearing a Gretzky 93 Kings jersey.
Yep.
And by God, is it beautiful.
It's pretty good.
And we have a special guest this week across the table from us, who was here in a much more timely manner than I was. He is with Gong Puck Wild, formerly our compadre at Wild Xtra, Brett Marshall.
Happy to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. Sorry I was absurdly late.
That's fine.
I have no excuse.
At least you're honest.
Yeah. I mean, honesty is good. Let's just get it out there. But anyway, we are recording after the Wild Sharks game on Sunday night, so we'll have plenty of hot takery for you from the last week. But first, we're going to revive an older segment that was mentioned in our survey that we had people fill out. And I had a pretty good idea of who said this, but I won't name names. But in the older days, we had we let off the show by letting me have the floor on what grinds my gears.
Right.
And I want to bring that back because last Sunday, it's hard to believe that was only a week ago, was the Oscars, and something that got lost in the mayhem of the ending that was the Oscars, which we can all debate was fixed or not.
Oh.
But I don't want people to lose sight on the fact of a very important subject that is near and dear to my heart, and that is the fact that the absurdly awful movie Suicide Squad won an Oscar. I want to say it was for costume design. I have to look
no
it up.
idea.
I tried to tune this out of memory, but it's just so bad. It just sticks there. So this is what grinds my gears. A movie so bad like Suicide Squad wins an Academy Award.
Was it just because of Harley Quinn being hot? I mean, was that it?
I mean,
I feel like that's like the only reason why I got publicity.
Right.
But it just burned the Academy down. And the Oscars almost did that at the end, was burn the Academy down.
Yeah,
so it got what it deserved.
I think after this publicity stunt that they pulled, I don't know if that's going to mean less ratings or more ratings for them next year. I mean, I know which side of the fence I'm on, but it's just how can anybody take anything they do seriously anymore? I don't know. It's been years since I've never really given a crap about the Oscars, but it seems like it gets just more pretentious and backslapping bull every year, you know? So,
well, you're struggling when you have to copy Miss Universe to make your show relevant.
You have to rip off a Steve Harvey joke. You know how not funny you have to be to rip off a Steve Harvey joke?
That's bad.
That's bad. It's really bad.
So that's what's grinding my gears this week. It felt like I had something else in there too, but I'll try and have one again next week. But that's really bad.
Yeah, that's bad.
I can't stress how bad that is. But anyway, so on to also if you go back and listen to the old ones, I think my most noted grind my gears was either the one where I vent for 10 minutes about Ra's al Ghul, or the fact when I stumbled in here after an open house one day and I just went on for what seemed like an eternity about how ugly the Viking Stadium was.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, archivable on iTunes.
Yes.
# promotion.
Yes. That was first season stuff right there.
Yeah, that was...
way back in the day.
Yeah, that was in the Feel It Out Season 1 era.
Yeah. That was when it was goalies, plural.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anyway, on to the important stuff as to why people listen to this podcast. The food takes.
Yes.
No, I was kidding. So it was a pretty good week for the Wild again. They came out of their long bye week on Monday. They had a thrilling come-from-behind ×4 win over the Kings in overtime, highlighted by Mikael Granlund's ridiculous overtime goal, which he cut through, who was it, Kopitar, Doughty,
Jeff Carter, and John Quick.
And then Quick was the goalie. He cut through everyone to score the winner.
He cut through like an entire trophy shelf of NHLers.
Yeah.
Which was incredible, but I was at the game and I was sitting upper level on the end, so I was looking straight down at it, and good Lord, the Kings left just a gaping hole up the middle of the ice. There's a lot of phrasing to be had here, but
well, it looked like they were expecting him to go to the wing, and then Granlund's like, "Nah, dude, I'm sitting right down the middle."
Yeah. Well, and I think that they counted on him deferring because it's Granlund, and that's kind of what he's known for. But what they didn't take into effect was that he very badly flubbed what was basically a wide open goal with about a minute left in the game. So, and I tweeted out something to that effect in a very not PG way, that MFer was determined. He was not going to let that flubbed goal late in the third come back and haunt him, and he basically did that. I mean, he basically walked right through the entire three-man Kings line and scored a goal, and virtually single-handedly.
When Brett mentioned it looks like he was going to go to the wing, and maybe this is a sign of a more intelligent Granlund on the ice, where maybe, and last year he just tries to go up the wing and then he gets cut off, whereas this year he sees more space up the middle and then the rest is history.
Well, I think an underrated part of it, and certainly people who measure things are going to throw this back in my face, but I think that's confidence right there. I think that's confidence exemplified in an action, is that he has been so good this year, and he's been so effective, and he's been so productive.
That move to the wing has been huge for him.
Well, that he wasn't afraid to just take it himself.
Yeah.
And that he's got the touch, and he realized that he can be a playmaker and a goal scorer now, and he wasn't afraid to just take it himself. I mean, how often have we seen Granlund just take it himself? I mean, he's a hell of a playmaker, but he doesn't do selfish plays like that very often, and obviously that one worked out very well for him.
And we'll get to it in a little bit, but just from tonight's game against the Sharks, you just see a little more selfishness to his game, where he's taking shots that he should be taking, but usually you'd see him try to force a pass.
Yep.
Too many times to count in previous years.
Now, I'll give him this in his checkered past. He has never been on a breakaway, and he hasn't tried to turn and then pass back to nobody.
I lost it when I said, that is such an analogy for the Avalanche season.
And if you don't know what we're referencing, this is from Saturday night when I believe it was Blake Como of the Colorado Avalanche was on a breakaway. I forget who they're playing.
Winnipeg.
Yeah.
It was Winnipeg. That's right. They lost 6.
He was facing a good goalie.
Yeah, whatever Jets goalie was ahead of him was just so frightening for him. He tried to throw a pass back, and he threw it to the defender instead.
And he was literally on top of the crease. And he's I'm going to try a drop pass, see if that works out.
Yeah, he might have passed that puck from the paint, in fact.
All right, we can spend eternity on the Avalanche. It's another
It's another topic altogether.
We could spend a whole show on
it's a separate podcast.
Yeah. We actually did that.
We did an emergency podcast on August when Wass stepped down, so that was worth it.
So fast track to the next night. The Wild were in Winnipeg Tuesday night, and they looked to have the game in hand, as I believe it was 5-2 at one point in the third.
Yep.
Late second, early third, somewhere in there. But then a run of 3 goals from the Jets to get Darcy Kemper pulled from the goal for the first time this season.
Yeah.
But Jason Zucker bailed out the Wild with a late goal thanks to a good shorthanded play by Eric Hulla to save the 6-5 win. And I think Ben has a State of the Union address for the Darcy Kemper crowd.
No, and I tweeted this towards the end of the game. I'm not the president of the Darcy Kemper fan club. I'm not. I feel like I'm very realistic about who he is and how he plays and all of that. He's inconsistent. He's wildly inconsistent. He's going to have a great game. He's going to have a terrible game. Quite honestly, on Tuesday, I didn't think he was terrible. He wasn't good by any stretch of the imagination. But, I thought goal bounces off his ass.
He was a backup goalie on Tuesday.
Yeah, he was.
His first 2 periods I thought were good.
Yeah.
And then at just the third.
And the wheels came off it for the entire team, and shockingly, that affects him in a negative way. So, I understand that you're going to be upset when he has games like that. He lets in 5 goals, even though, like I said, 1 went off his ass, and the other 4 are probably attributed to at least the play around him. But people lose their ever-loving minds over him having a bad game. And it's like, do you not know Darcy Kemper by now? Do you not understand how he operates? His numbers at the end of the day, and I looked it up after that night, he's 37th in the league in save percentage, which is not a be-all, end-all stat, I get that, but it's a pretty good stat. It's not an advanced stat, but it's a pretty good stat for measuring goalies. Okay, so that puts him as, if you do the math, the 7th best backup goalie in the league. I'm not going to claim he's the 7th best backup goalie in the league, but not terrible. Let's just put it, that's not terrible. And everyone is losing their mind like he's the worst backup in the NHL. The Wild cannot win unless they, and the trade deadline was the next day, of course, cannot win unless we get rid of him, like he's going to be some kind of huge Achilles heel for this team in the playoffs, as if he's going to get a start in the playoffs. When it's like, okay, what are you going to deal? What are you going to trade for a better backup, which is hard to find? You're basically looking to trade for a guy who could be a starter, a top 30 save percentage guy. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point in trading for a goalie that's not better than that? So you're trading for another NHL starter just so you can have him down the stretch. What are you going to pay for that? You already gave up every draft pick until 2025 for Martin Hansel. What are you going to deal for a backup goaltender? That's the part that gets me too. If one's out there and cheap, sure, yeah, what the hell, go for it. But the market wasn't that good for it. And Darcy Kemper is what he is. He's going to have a good game. He's going to have a bad game. He's going to have a good game. He's going to have a bad game.
And this has been pointed out. I was listening to the radio before the game today, and
it's dangerous.
Maybe it was a podcast. I can't remember.
There was audio involved.
Yeah, somebody was talking. Yeah,
somebody was saying something into a microphone.
Okay.
But
we're familiar.
The thing with Kemper is he'll get a start, and then, he won't get another start for 10 days.
Right.
Or something like that. And so it just gets, between the ears because he doesn't get into any kind of a rhythm, which I'm not a goalie, but I'm sure you can relate to that. You don't get into a rhythm when you only start every 10 days or so.
Oh, for sure. And there's only so much that practice can do. You could do the Greg Goldberg and tape yourself to the net and just get, shellacked for a half an hour, and it's really not going to give you the same kind of looks that you're going to see in a game, the same kind of intensity you're going to see in a game. There's a lot of saves that are made on, rebounds and hacking players within 3 feet of you. There's really not a great way to replicate that in practice unless you're doing a full-on 100% balls-to-the-wall scrimmage, which the NHL just isn't going to do. It's not worth it. It's not smart to do that.
And especially the Wild schedule right now, there's no way they're going to be even thinking about doing
They're
that.
not going to have they've got, about 3 days off in the next 2 months.
Yeah.
So it's not going to happen. And I'm not going to, give him a pass based on days off like that. He still does manage to have good games, but he's wildly inconsistent. And in the end, it ends up okay. It's okay, folks. It's okay. It's good and it's bad, and it ends up okay. That's how it works.
And my other defense, this is actually going to come off as a hot take, so I'm sure somebody's going to at me on Twitter. But Bar Bingo is back, a staple of our show.
Yes, Giles will sing any minute.
People are kind of worried about Dubnyk getting hurt and Kemper having to start in the playoffs. Well, my argument is kind of what I just mentioned was he would get into some kind of rhythm and he would have that knowledge that, hey, he's the guy now. Like, he doesn't have to worry about when is his next start going to come, which would probably work out to the Wild's favor because he's been pretty decent when they're like, hey, you're the guy.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't in the regular season in 2014-15, but I mean, he did play pretty well in that Avalanche series until he got literally knocked out in the final game, and Briz had to come in for the one-save win. But
I remember that.
I know.
Fondly.
Yeah. But to that point, like, people are like, well, how many starts do you feel comfortable with Kemper making in the playoffs? Oh, 0. Are you nuts? Like,
right.
But I don't care if it's Kemper or if it's Peter Budaj or if it's Michael. Michael Neuvirth is having a decent season, but okay, insert backup goalie here. Insert generic backup goalie. Michael Hutchison. Friggin' Antti Ranta, who actually played well, but you don't feel confident in your backup because it's not Devin Dubnyk. Like, it's
not your Vezina candidate.
You're downgrading.
Right.
You're downgrading no matter what.
Well, and this is something that's kind of bothered me that you kind of brought up was people seem to think Darcy Kemper is going to get a start in the playoffs.
Yeah, why?
Where is the logic in that?
No.
If Devin Dubnyk is able to walk, he's going to be in the goal.
Right. And if he's hurt, we're screwed. So what's the difference? This is rearranging lifeboats on the Titanic, people.
I don't know. So, all right, we let Ben have his ranty pants.
Gonna go have a cigarette now, and I'll be back with you guys in about 5 minutes.
Let's get him a shot. So you can flip the page on the calendar from February to March, and the Wild kicked off March in Columbus. Condolences with a 1-0 loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets, which included a controversial no goal and then just a very fluke goal given up by the Wild to, of course, noted Wild killer Brandon Saad. But I don't know. I don't have any violently hot takes from this game, but the Wild have just kind of had 2 junk games against Columbus this year. So we never really saw them, really at the top of their game against Columbus. So I don't know. It's not. They won't meet again this year. Don't think that for a minute, as people thought in their first meeting on December 31st. But I don't know. That's all I got on this. I don't know about the rest of you.
I don't know. I watched that replay of the Holla goal, and I understand the interpretation of the rule, but I think it's one of the rules that needs to be evaluated because I understand you don't want to kick it into the net, but I mean that's Holla trying to kick it to a stick nowhere near the net, happens to deflect off a guy's skate and goes in the net, and they call it no goal for a kicking motion. But yet, Colorado can deliberately kick it from behind the net in the playoffs one year, and it goes in, and that counts. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and that night, I mean, aside from that fluky goal and whatnot, and the fluky goal Dubnyk gave up, but it was just a hell of a game by Bobrovsky. You really can't be too upset. I mean, it was almost 40. It was 40 shots, or it was like 40-38 or something like that. And you saw 2 goalies who will absolutely be in the running for the Vezina at the end of the year. So, I mean, hell of a game, and you just kind of got to tip your cap to goalie Bob and wonder how the hell he figured out to be good again, I guess.
What kind of voodoo did Torts pull to get Bobrovsky to do good?
Yeah, sure. Mike Richards is at home just crushing a juice box in his hand.
Poor Tom.
Could you imagine that guy watching the Wild and the Blue Jackets? He's like, what the hell did I do wrong?
Yeah, basically.
Well, I can make a list of things you did wrong, but we haven't enough time for that.
Brett? I mean, we already started the show late.
We got all night. Well, okay. Going to the Holla goal. You want to boost scoring in the NHL? Dump the kick rule.
Yeah.
Kick pucks into the net.
No, we don't. Nobody wants that.
Come on, Ben. You're a big soccer guy.
We could have talked about
I've
this
seen
later.
where you were on Friday night.
I did accept Giles' invitation to watch the Minnesota United opener, and now I am a certified soccer fan, and if the Minnesota United ever, and I mean ever, win anything, I'm going to claim that I was there from the very start. Because I'm a member of the Scary Clouds, or whatever it is now.
I think the only soccer I've ever watched was the Women's USA team in the Olympics, and they scored like 6 goals in like 10 minutes. I'm like, why isn't soccer always like this? I would actually watch it.
Oh boy. Tomorrow, or even tonight maybe, depending on when post this, be ready for your mentions to get filled with @DanielMick.
No, he'll be fine. He gets it. He's trying. He'll be nice because he's trying to convert me. He's trying to make me one of you.
That was actually the point of him inviting like non-soccer people to the parties, just to get him converted. Oh shit! I said that out loud. I hope the mic didn't pick that up. Now I gotta make Ben hit the edit button.
Well, then you dropped the S-bomb, but it's okay.
Yeah.
That's PG, right? Close enough. Roll with it.
You can go back and look at it.
Sure.
All right. So then the Wild got their last 2-day break of the regular season. Think about that, folks.
Seriously?
There's no more. There's only 1-day breaks after this, or back-to-backs.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it's 20 games in 35 days.
Oh, my God.
Strap yourselves in.
Well,
Hold on to your butts.
It's because they give us like 5 7-day breaks in October.
Yeah. I mean, Brett would fit right in on our next NHL vent show. Like,
I think any NHL fan would, because we're just...
From now until the end of the season, they play every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday with 1 Friday game. Yep.
Okay, well, super.
he's done more research on the fly than I have for this show. This is bad. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. So after their last 2-day break of the season, the Wild played Sunday night or today with a 3-1 win over the heavily bearded San Jose Sharks.
It's like 2 beards.
Which included a non-Eric Stahl empty net goal.
Yeah, true.
He finally scored with the goalie
he
in the net.
scored a real one.
It's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
But I was impressed with the Wild defensively tonight.
Yeah.
Boudreau, after the Winnipeg game, he kind of brought up that the team needed to tighten up defensively, and we saw that in Columbus, and then again with the Sharks, and
2 really good teams, and they shut them down holding the 2 goals.
Yeah. Which is a very encouraging sign. So it's nice when a head coach says, hey, we need to work on this. Oh, look, it happened.
I feel like you're subtweeting somebody right now. No?
Is it somebody that's going to be played on Tuesday?
Maybe.
Maybe with like 6 straight losses or 5, whatever it is.
Well, so they're playing right now against a bantam team. So I'm not going to count this in their standings. So the Blues will enter Tuesday's game at XL Energy Center on a 5-game losing streak.
Right. And then they played a scrimmage. Yeah.
If you don't catch that, the Blues are currently playing the team from Denver and winning 3-0 right now as we record, because
anybody could do that.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts on the San Jose game before we roll over to the next week?
No, I think it was good.
Yeah, I saw the first period, and that was basically the whole game. So,
yeah, I watched it almost in its entirety, and it looked good. I mean, it was good. In the second period, especially, they kind of dominated the Sharks as far as possession went. So that was huge to see. And now we see, after the Hansel trade and with Parise and Palmer back, we see the whole lineup as it was intended. and that's pretty impressive. I mean, that's a pretty damn good fourth line. So obviously encouraging. Anytime that you can avoid putting Tyler Graveck on the ice, I think is probably a good thing at this point. And to have the flexibility to either include Schroeder or not include Schroeder is probably fine too, because I'd like to see him in the lineup, but if your lineup is good enough to keep him out, then that's fine too.
Hello. I guess another question before we roll over. How do you guys feel about Hansel and White in their first week?
White obviously came out of the gate storming, and Hansel is... he's looked pretty good. I think he's gotten some chances. Obviously you were looking for that first goal at the Wild yet, but I like the chances that he's gotten, and obviously the way that the biggest thing is how it set up the lines. It was similar to bringing in Stahl, where it really kind of, it was like a domino effect where the rest of the lines kind of fell in place, and that allowed Granlund to move to the wing, allowed Coyle to move to the wing. Now we're seeing the same thing with Hansel, where it allows Haula to be a fourth line center with really good wings on each side of him, and we just see them rolling four lines, and it's really kind of a beautiful thing. So he obviously hasn't hit the score sheet quite yet, but we've already seen the dividends of him being here.
I wrote about it a little bit in my article I did with Gone Puck Wild last week, but a big things that are pointed out on Twitter is it gives the size it gives the Wild down the middle, which in my mind, something in the past hasn't happened much, is the Wild haven't had a lot of size. And now you got your middle with Eric Stahl, Mikko Koivu, and Martin Hansel, all guys that are probably 6'5", at least 200 pounds down the middle, which isn't easy for any team to stop.
No, that's
a pretty big boost there. And also, I think all four of our centers have over 50% in the face-off circle too, which is huge too in every game.
Yep.
So I was at Monday's game, so I got to get a good look at Hansel and White, and Bruce Boudreau was not wrong when he said how impressed he was at Hansel after Monday night's game, considering he spent about 3 minutes with the coaches before, because he got in about 5 and then he had to go through a physical for a 7 o'clock puck drop. So I think he's going to be that really good shutdown guy, and I think the Wild do have one more game with the Blackhawks, who they're flip-flopping with right now in the standings. So I'll be really interested to see how Johnny Taves does next time around when Hansel, Stahl, Koivu are all down the middle, especially given on the heels of the last game when Taves just roasted the Wild. But I'm thinking it's going to be a much different dynamic in the next time around.
Little side on that whole flip-flopping thing. March 25th is the next day the Wild and Blackhawks will have the same amount of games again.
Yeah, I saw that. That's ridiculous.
Thanks, NHL, for that.
And then Ryan White, man, does he have elite hair, elite hockey hair, especially given this week with the high school tournament. We're going to be spending a lot of time looking at hair.
Yeah. I think he'll be the precedent. That's where everyone's going to be comparing to.
Yep.
On a scale of 0 to Ryan White, how good is his hair?
That's actually pretty. You got to pass these notes along to the guy who does the all hockey hair video.
Or you can give him 1 to 5 Ryan Whites. Just
on 0 to salad. How good is his hair? All right.
Oh, tremendous!
As Bar Bingo is being explained to the gathering here, looking ahead to this week. As we discussed, St. Louis Tuesday night, who are not playing good at all. They're, as I said, 5-game losing streak going into tonight, and they traded Kevin Shattenkirk. I mean, this team is seemingly a sinking ship. So I'd like to think you can get 2 points out of that.
You'd hope so.
And then that is the Wild's last home game until February, March 18th. They hit the road for 5, and they go out east, mainly east. With this week, they hit Tampa Bay and then Florida on back-to-backs on Thursday, Friday.
Look at the schedule now. Who booked that? They go from Florida to Chicago to Washington.
Ben?
To Carolina.
They always try to screw us over when we play Chicago. First 2 games are on the tail ends of back-to-backs, Chicago unrest.
Yeah.
If our podcast had a theme this year, it's not coleslaw.
Yeah.
It's what's wrong with you NHL schedulers.
Yeah, but I mean, in all honesty, those next 4 games, that's rough. That's really rough. You've got the Bolts at home, you've got the Panthers at home, you've got the Blackhawks at home, you've got the Capitals at home. That is a meat grinder. So you absolutely need to win that St. Louis game because I'd be happy with 4 points out of those 4 games, quite frankly. I mean, that's the best you can really ask for. Yeah. 4 games like that, all on the road, like that. That's tough week.
I mean, you can get a win against St. Louis, and then Tampa Bay is kind of reeling right now. They're kind of floundering.
That's true. You should be able to beat them, but still, it's still not an easy game.
The Wild go down to Florida seemingly, and they
always split.
Yeah.
It seems like every time they go to Florida and play both teams, they split. It never fails. So
and they always go to Florida, and I seemingly never go, which is a
who we're
mistake.
Going to see in Florida? Our friend Tom. Our friend Tom will be in Florida.
Tom Vanek. Me and my roommate were actually watching a little bit of the Dallas-Florida game last night. And Tom was cutting right in front of the net, and he got robbed by a skate save by Kerry Lettinen for the go-ahead goal, to which I just blurted out, classic Tom.
Yeah, I was more surprised about the Kerry Lettinen part, too. Yeah, I hear you.
So he's also on a line with Nick Bukestad for the Gopher.
It's the Gopher
for
line.
The Gopher guys out there.
What a contrast of speed.
I wouldn't say Nick Bukestad is the most fleet of foot either, but
no, he's a big guy.
But just for the Gopher nostalgics like me.
Who's the wing on that? The other wing on that?
I don't remember. I only noticed Vanek and
We'll
Bukestad.
have to look that up for some catchy nickname when we play him.
But and then as I said, the Wild close out the week on Sunday at Chicago, an 11:30 a.m. start.
Oh, why? It must be on NBC then.
Yeah, it's gonna. I suppose. I mean, the 2 top teams in the West going at it. I mean, I'm sure for once NBC is right to
National Blackhawks channel.
Yeah. And I don't think that. Probably,
he's right.
Yeah,
I never thought of it like that, but he's right.
Yeah, no, it is.
Although they've been giving the Wild a lot of love this month.
Yeah,
like they had a whole week where just on NBC.
They have until they play the Blackhawks, and then But that, like we mentioned earlier, with the whole John Taves thing, that's going to be a huge litmus test. I can't read that from here. Who's that?
Jonathan Marchessault is on the line with Vanek and Bukestad.
Not very fun. But no, that Blackhawks game is going to be a massive litmus test because they beat the Wild twice already this year, or the last 2 games they beat them. And the Hansel, I mean, this is what the Hansel trade was made for, because last game they really shut down the Patrick Kane line and then got completely owned by Taves and a couple of bums and Jonathan Taves. I mean, Nick Schmalz suddenly becomes like a Calder candidate overnight just by the game he had against the Wild. So that's the game. That's obviously the game of the week for the Wild. That's the litmus test. That's the final time they play the Blackhawks all season. So wildly important.
I mean, I'd argue that the litmus test is, I'm kind of jumping ahead a week here, but the litmus test is like you come out of Florida, you take that day off on Saturday, but then you have Sunday at Chicago, day off, and then on Tuesday you're in Washington. I mean, those are 2 out of the top 3 teams in the league, and the Wild being the 3rd. So that's your litmus test right there.
No, you're not wrong. That's a hell of a stretch.
But I think it's looking right now that either one of Washington and Pittsburgh will be out in the first round in the playoffs. So they could rant about how playoff seeding is messed up with the new format.
Well, Washington and Pittsburgh will end up playing each other in the second round.
I'm going to throw a party if Columbus upsets Pittsburgh in the first round, just because that means Washington is booking it to the conference finals.
They're skyrocketing all the way to the conference finals.
And you know what that means?
Yeah.
Wildcats, Stanley Cup final.
Oh, that's... I pray for you, Giles.
Brett, you're new here. The Caps are my second favorite team out of love for Ovechkin and their alternate jerseys.
I got nothing against Caps.
Oh. Nobody in their right mind should.
No. I'm also a big fan of the Kings. So.
Fair enough.
I'm a big Jonathan Quick guy.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Fair enough.
I mean, he's got 2 rings. Respect.
All right. Sure.
Although I'm salty about the last one.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, all right.
That's about it for the week, huh?
Yeah, that'll wrap it up for the week ahead segment.
Sure.
I can't think of what the next segment is. Like, jerseys is there somewhere, but
no,
I feel
it's
like
usually this takes us so long that we have to go into jerseys after this. So
wow, so we're ahead of schedule.
We're actually doing really well. I think we've gotten some rants out of the way, both of us, and so yeah, now we can.
Now I just have to ad-lib for a few minutes, or
no, we can go into jerseys and then see where that takes us.
Okay.
All right, we'll do that.
What's going on, Gopher fans? It's Sam Ekstrom, host of the Cast in Gold podcast, Cold Omaha Podcast Network, your source for maroon and gold speculation. Can the young, energetic coaches, Fleck and Patino, resurrect their respective programs? We've got all the talk and the best guests on Cast in Gold, available on iTunes.
Here to start the third period. What team is this? It's not Team USA. Well, yes, it is. They've got on new uniforms. They're wearing the logo of the Duck. I've never seen this before.
And we're back.
Boy, that really wrecked my brain.
Brett just completely derails Giles like 1 second before we're back going live. Just a knockout punch from left field.
So on the transition clip we always play here is the scene from D2 where the Ducks come out of the locker room after the second intermission wearing the Mighty Ducks jerseys.
Right.
For those who don't know, that the announcer who is calling this game on D2, as I put game in air quotes, is Bob Miller, the legendary Bob Miller, who has spent literally his entire career with the Los Angeles Kings, and I believe he has been there for all but the first 5 seasons of the LA Kings. So he has spanned an eternity of hockey, and this week he announced he'll be retiring after the end of this year. So I don't know. For somebody who watches a lot of hockey, a lot of NHL TV, like, I get a good feel for who the good announcers in the game are, and when I go on the 5 Minute Major podcast, we love to rank the announcers, and Bob Miller is as good as it gets. Obviously, putting my D2 love aside, as he was in, he has been one of my favorite announcers to listen to. It's been unfortunate because he calls the LA Kings that most of those games are coming at a late hour that I can't fully devote my time to, but I'll be fully glued to my NHL TV in his last 2 games in April.
Sure.
So I just want to put that out there that it stinks. Speaking of D2, whoop, there it is, comes on the speakers. So I just want to put out there, it stinks that Bob is stepping away, but for obvious health reasons, like it's nice to see him step away before it was too late.
Sure.
In that kind of a term. So
sure.
Just a stick tap, if you will, to one of the best.
Absolutely.
Anyway, on to the jersey segment that the D2 clip usually leads into. For those who are new to the show, as we continue to expand our listeners, I don't know why people continue to listen, but This is the part of the show where we highlight a different team every week, and we look at what their jerseys might look like in the Adidas rebrand next year. And the jersey of this week is the San Jose Sharks, the team we just saw tonight, if you will. So I'll open up the floor.
I think the Sharks have a pretty decent look. It's nothing too crazy tonight. I think they got Reebok-ized a little bit. I've never been a fan of the jersey numbers on the front, so that's one thing I would hope they would ditch, but who knows? Maybe that's now their thing along with Buffalo. I don't know. But it feels like they kind of they got edge systemed a little bit at the beginning there when Reebok took over, and now they've got a much cleaner look. They kind of simplified things a little bit. I'd like to see them stick with that. I'd like to see them stick with as clean of a look as possible. And their initial jerseys were absolutely beautiful. I'd like to see something along those lines, but I realize they added the orange, and that's probably not going away, so it is what it is.
I don't know, Brett, you got any thoughts on maybe what we might see from the Kings next year? Keep in mind that
the Sharks,
you're probably going to see something. A lot of teams are probably going to see something similar to what we saw in the World Cup of Hockey.
There you go.
I was thinking World Baseball Classic.
No, that's next week.
But where you're going to get 3 stripes down the side.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I would say with the other 2 California teams being the Ducks and the Kings that one or at least both of them will go with a black jersey, so it wouldn't surprise me to see the Sharks maybe go with the teal over the black that they have now.
He makes a good point.
Because LA, for sure, you're probably going to go with black. Anaheim should go back to the retros, but they'll probably do a black or an orange.
I'll never get that lucky again in my lifetime.
See, I'm with Ben there. I like to see him keep it simple, but I would say it'll probably be the teal. I don't know.
I'm going to be the contrarian here. The Kings, if you look at the history of not the Kings, the Sharks, sorry.
How many drinks
I got to get my head out of the sand. My head's in the clouds. If you look at the Kings' history, they can never really stick with a certain set for really that long. And that's what we have here, is they're kind of at the end of their run with these jerseys.
Which makes sense.
Seemingly, if you average out all the years before they make a switch. So I think they're going to be a team that goes full-on Adidas next year.
Yeah.
Because, we can't have nice things. So I think you're going to see, as Brett kind of threw out, like they're going to probably go with the teal as their main home. And then they're probably going to have like 3 black stripes down the side. And they might maybe something similar to what they have now with the black stripes on the arms.
Yep.
But I don't know. They don't really need to change, but they're going to probably go with the Adidas rebrand.
And I think as long as they don't mess with I think the logo is still good. They updated it a couple of years ago. I think as long as they stick with that and a relatively simple striping pattern, I think they're okay. The 3 stripes is what it is. Unfortunately, at this point, we're just kind of reserved to it, which sucks, but whatever. But I think they'll be okay. They're not a jersey that you immediately think of as one of the top 5 best in the league, but they're also never a jersey where you immediately think of as one of the worst 5 in the league either. So I think they're going to stay in kind of that middle groundish type area. Redesign isn't going to really alter them all that much, I don't think. I don't think they're going to overhaul it like we're going to see out of supposedly the Wild and some other teams.
I don't know. I would expect the worst with the Sharks.
This is such a progressive community,
I mean, I don't know. I think they'll find. They'll find something else. They'll go full on Adidas. Because, just think about how many teams we say, well, they can't really switch because they're either an original 6 or. They just switched in the last year or 2. If you switched in the last year or 2, you're not going to switch again. But
I don't know how many teams are going to go full-blown hand your jerseys over to Adidas kind of rebuild. I mean, I don't know, how many teams did we see do that with Reebok, where it was they went with a hardcore...
Quite a few.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
And there was quite... a lot of them graduated from it, which was nice, but quite a few of them did.
Yeah, true. I don't know. I mean, I have faith that only a handful of teams are going to do that. But again, to your point, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the Sharks be one of those teams.
All right. So since we have a guest on the show and Bar Bingo is seemingly on a break for a minute, I'm gonna give Brett a question since we're on jerseys that we give all of our guests.
The pressure.
And that is, if you had, now I give you an option, like if you can pick your favorite jersey from any NHL team ever, throw it out there, and if there's too many that come to mind, give me a Mount Rushmore.
Okay. I always really like the vintage LA Kings with the purple and the gold.
Okay.
I always thought
Four
those
and blue?
ones, and then I'll always be a fan of the retro Ducks. Partially because I grew up watching The Mighty Ducks. It's one of my favorite movies. So I really liked when Pete Blackburn did like the Color Rush stuff. He redid The Mighty Ducks, and that was one of my favorites that he did in the Color Rush.
Yes. Pete does. He has many good jersey takes. So I did like his Color Rush thing. All right, the Kings, Form Blue, and the Mighty Ducks.
Yep, those might be my top two.
Any others out there, or just those two?
I'd have to look more.
Okay.
I mean, my hockey knowledge starts at about 2000s when I really start remembering. And NHL 2003 was like where my NHL hockey started.
Respect.
I think he's just too young to remember the glory days.
Did you get NHL 05?
I think that might be the one I didn't play, actually.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, like, which cover did you have? Because Danny Heatley was the original cover athlete, but then he got into that car accident and killed a guy. So then they bumped him for Joe Sakic.
I don't know that I played 05. I think I had everyone else. I think I had all the other ones. I don't know if I played 05.
Did you have that, Ben?
I don't think I did. I had a friend of mine that had, he must have had 04? Maybe it was 03 or 04.
Okay.
We played that quite a bit. That was about it, I think.
I think NHL 05 was the first one that I switched when I switched over to EA Sports.
Yeah.
Before that late, and I was getting an NHL face-off from 989 Sports.
I remember 989.
Which, if you go back and look, the announcer in that game was Mike Emmerich.
Really?
Yes. It is great.
Wow.
The graphics are crap, but it is voiced by Doc Emmerich.
Yeah, I went through kind of like a gaming lull a little bit in my college years, which is the reverse of everybody else somehow. But I didn't do a whole lot of that. Was right in that range, so I didn't do a whole lot of hockey gaming back then. Not that I do anymore either, for that matter. But
I used to be pretty big into the games.
Yeah.
But I haven't gotten an NHL game since 13.
Oh, wow.
It's been a while.
I think that might have been, but just no time to play it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. See, that's my problem. Is there's just nothing to. I just don't have the time to play it.
I think I have 15, but I very rarely played it.
Like, if a Wild player's on the cover, I'll probably buy it just for that.
Would you buy the Swiss version with Nino on the cover?
I would. I mean, I'm buying the new MLB The Show this year because of their cover athlete. Griffey. Ken Griffey.
He's on the really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Why did they do that?
I don't know. I don't care. Just shut up and take my money.
Don't ask questions, damn it. Just go with it. All right. Well, fair enough.
There's actually an awesome. You can get the MVP edition, which comes with a special cover. That's just basically Griffey's jersey.
Nice.
So I'm good. Take my money. Yeah. So.
Cool.
That'll wrap up the gaming segment of the podcast. I don't know, anything else out there? We're kind of under time here, which is seemingly some kind of record. We're only 2 minutes ahead of our short trade deadline podcast, as I put short in air quotes.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a half hour, ended up 47 minutes. No, I don't know. I think pretty solid week out of the Wild, and it's becoming more and more apparent that this team is actually good, and we slowly but surely need to deal with that. I don't know. It just seems it's kind of weird. Oh, I have one thing. We can wrap up the Wild. I have one thing that I'm surprised you guys didn't think of, but it just seems like this team is good. We saw them play every minute with a good Blue Jackets team and narrowly lose. We saw them more or less, not really score-wise, but dominate the Sharks, at least from a possession standpoint tonight. And, it's getting very real. It's getting very real very fast. Now that we're past the trade deadline, we've got essentially a month to go in the regular season. Crazy, but here we are,
I almost forgot. I have one more question for you that we always ask our guests, and this is the most heated question that gets asked on this podcast because we violently disagree on it.
Yep.
I think you've chimed in on this before on Twitter, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. Is soup a meal?
Absolutely, it is a meal.
Yes! You know what? You needed this, Giles. You needed this. You've been on a losing streak with guests lately. Yeah. You needed this one.
Yeah, I grew up not knowing really how to make much for food, but I could throw a can of soup in a bowl and put it in the microwave, and that was lunch for me.
Oh, jeez. You poor child.
Yeah. I like soup, too. So.
Every guest we have on, I feel like we just should keep a tally of who's on each side, and then we just have a war. No, I'm just kidding.
No, yeah. We've already had enough 20-some tweet threads between you, me, and then 5 people end up jumping in at the end.
Right. It just starts out with you and me, and then it just turns into a dog pile. Everyone just starts jumping in, and
Pete always has to jump on your side, and Gary always has to make some kind of smart-ass comment.
Pete's on my side?
Yeah, Pete's on your side.
I can remember when Pete's on my side.
See, I've got loyal listener Josh is on my side. There's a couple other guys that are on my side, that some red-blooded Americans that prefer not to eat just soup for a meal.
We were debating today in a group chat if you should reheat pizza or not before you eat it again.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's a tough one. I think that's a personal preference thing. I could go either way, honestly, but I know there's some people that despise cold pizza. And it's that's weird that you won't eat that at all.
I don't mind reheating pizza, but I just think cold pizza is so far and away elite that why reheat it?
Well, and reheating it, obviously it's reheating it, so it's never as good. That's kind of the first beef,
I feel like I'm going to get a tweet storm from my roommate tomorrow because he reheated old pizza yesterday, so I feel like
I reheated old pizza on
I feel like that was him
Thursday.
taking a stance on this.
I reheat my pizza. I prefer it warm, but I like melty cheese versus.
I'm all in on cold pizza.
Which is totally fine.
Was there another food question out there for this podcast, or
I feel like there is.
What? I think
coleslaw, yeah or nay?
I used to like it when I was little, but it's not anymore.
Excellent.
You guys need to get a room.
It's I'm Team Giles in the food.
All right. Well, so if we're done arguing about random food stuffs, because since I'm losing every battle here, the question that I had, and that I'm surprised neither one of you thought of, is the state hockey tournament this weekend. Which, Giles, I know you're aware of it.
Yeah.
And Brett's actually going to be working there, so.
Come check me out at the Hockey Expo. I'll be there. Come say hi.
Where are you at?
So I will be with the State of Hockey street team, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Does that mean you'll be doing backflips and stuff?
No.
It's not that kind of street team?
Not that kind of street team.
Okay.
I'll try and come find you.
More come buy stuff.
Oh, fair enough.
I'll be there one way or another, but I'm not sure how at this moment.
Yeah,
so.
We'll figure it out. So anyway, do you guys have any favorites? I know you guys may be a little more in tune to this than I am, but...
Well, I mean, I'd like to say I want Hermantown's going to lose, but that AA team in Class A will probably win state again, so...
Whoa!
I won't rant on that for too long. My friends know my opinion on Hermantown in Class A, but I don't know. And
poor Delano never had a chance.
If anyone's going to, anyone will beat him, it'll be Delano.
It will, yeah, true.
As for Class AA, it's going to be a really good tournament, I think, looking at some of the teams that are coming hot out of sections. You have teams like Wayzata and Grand Rapids, who Wayzata still baffles me. Came in as I think they were a 3 seed with 7 wins.
Yeah.
And then beat Edina.
Yeah. God bless them.
Yeah. I was upset that Stillwater didn't win because we could have had a tournament without Edina, Duluth East, and Hill Murray. And
that wouldn't have been bad.
Wouldn't have been bad, but
Eden Prairie's still in it, so...
Yeah, so I mean, you got probably one of the best prospects to ever come out of Minnesota and Middlestead on Eden Prairie, so it's hard to pick against them. But if I had a dark horse, I'd probably go with Grand Rapids. I think they're getting hot at the right time right now. So,
Fake Don Lucia approves of that opinion.
I mean, well, first of all, I'm in the belief Hermantown should stay in Class A.
Oh, it's getting good.
I mean,
yeah, get them.
I mean, we can't have every good team go up to AA.
I'm just glad that St. Thomas Academy did, because it was flat ridiculous that they were in single A for that long.
That's a huge difference. St. Thomas Academy over Hermantown.
Hermantown isn't a
I think all private school should have to play AA too, but
yeah, well,
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think there's some single A private schools that probably deserve to be single A, but I think
I went to one.
I get your exactly. I get your point.
But anyway, looking at the brackets here, like, obviously Hermantown's a favorite in Class A, as always. But, I mean, they could have a potential matchup with East Grand Forks in the second round, and those two have been the heavyweights of Class A for the last, 3 years? And
since St. Thomas left, pretty much.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if, they had another, titanic matchup in the second round, despite the fact, East Grand Forks is only a 4 seed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't sleep on them, and, I think that'll be the tournament for Hermantown. No disrespect to Delano, but if Hermantown can get past the second round, assuming East Grand Forks gets there, I think they'll win it all again. And then obviously 2A, I'd lost it, but Brett threw it out there. I mean, I am so googly-eyed over getting ready to watch Middlestead after his 11 points in the first 2 games last year. Regrettably, I haven't gotten to see him as much as I wanted to this year, but I'll get plenty of viewings on him next year when he's with the Maroon and Gold.
I think he's the type of player that, and it's rare, that makes you cheer for a juggernaut like Eden Prairie, where he's so good you want to see more of him, and you want to see him do great things. I know not that many people feel that way about Tom Brady, but it's kind of like you want to see somebody that good, win. Somebody that good go all the way, and you can see them, as much as possible and see them perform.
I think...
The big thing for me with Middlestead, I guess, is so many of these good high school players in Minnesota think they have to go play juniors instead of playing their senior of high school. So for me, it's nice to see a guy stick with his team, see it through.
Yeah.
You even heard some NHL players who've done it and said they don't regret staying with their high school team one bit. I know my high school lost a couple guys that went off to play juniors, and one of them was one of our best players and might have, could have been a reason we didn't go to state. But just have him stick with the team, I think, makes him even a little more able to root for him.
I mean, I'll say this on Middlestead before I kind of roll into how I think the tournament will roll out. And, I mean, if he comes in and he tears it up again, this is one of those like every quarter of a century type of performances that we rarely get to see. Like, he'll go into the record books with the likes of Dave Spihar, who absolutely tore up the tournament in the 90s, back in the Target Center era of the state tournament. But but it's not going to be a cakewalk for Eden Prairie. They get Wayzata right off the hop,
right.
And
giant killers.
Wayzata beat Edina as Brett threw out there, and that is, I don't know. They're coming in hot, so don't sleep on them because they're hot. So, I'm not going to say there's going to be an upset on the first night, but, it could happen.
It could happen, and I think the coolest thing about this state tournament is that you've got a high school level sports tournament that is absolutely water cooler talk for the entire state. Like it's just a tribute to the state of hockey and all that crap. But it's really cool that like for a weekend everyone just kind of goes a little. People care about the prep bowl and that kind of stuff, and obviously if you know somebody in it, you're big on it. But otherwise, nobody remembers much about the Minnesota football tournaments, even though this is a Vikings market. They don't really remember what teams are really good in baseball, but they know high school hockey, and they've seen a lot of high school hockey, and the state high school hockey tournament is kind of an entity in of itself, and it's really cool that it's still that way. There's a lot of things that change and a lot of things that get, quite frankly, a lot worse, but the fact that the high school hockey tournament is still a very, very big deal in the state is really cool.
It's been big for forever.
Literally decades.
I threw this out on Twitter. I used to stay home sick from school just to watch the tournament during the days with my grandparents.
That was one of my favorite things. We always had like a teacher workshop when I was in school, and it was always every Friday of the weekend of the state tournament.
Yeah.
So I've been going down to the state tournament on Friday to watch single A semifinals since as long as I can remember.
And Friday is arguably the best day of the tournament.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't beat Friday whatsoever. Anyway, so into predictions, does anyone object to Hermantown winning Class A? Is that just I don't have any kind of beef against Hermantown like Brett does, but I don't know.
I think it'd be cool to see Delano win one. It's a team you virtually never hear of on the hockey landscape, and it's kind of a cool underdog story. Even though they're a very good team, it's kind of a cool underdog story from a program standpoint.
I think Delano could have a lot of momentum coming into, because I think I heard a stat, they were talking on the radio today a little bit about Delano and how I think it's the last 4 or 5 years it's been Breck that's ended their season. So to finally get over Breck,
right.
Is that them finally getting over the hump? Now can they get through Hermantown?
Sure.
There's been Hermantown and Breck every year for the longest time.
Right,
too, so
right.
Maybe an unfamiliar face for Hermantown might even be a little bit of a Achilles heel. Because
I'll cheers to Hayden on Breck. That takes me back to my high school days. They were in our conference.
Oh.
But anyway, all right, and then Class AA. Who are we all picking?
I think we talked about the Eden Prairie thing. It's kind of it's a very real thing. It's wanting to see Middlestead, wanting to see greatness, at work, seeing what he can do if he gets 3 games in the tournament this year. That'll be pretty huge. But it's kind of the regular. It's a very regular cast of teams there this year. Grand Rapids is no stranger. Hill Murray is no stranger. Wayzata isn't the program it once was, but it's not a completely out there city making the hockey tournament. So I don't know. I think it should be a good tournament this year, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Middlestead can do.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the Class AA tournament, because I think looking at the teams, and I think 6 of the 8 were teams that weren't ranked number 1 in their section.
Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible, which is why I love hockey so much. You just never know who's going to win a game, especially in high school. and anything can happen. So
something I think has kind of potential to happen is the first round of 2A could all be really good, especially given Wayzata Eden Prairie is not going to be a cakewalk as people think just by looking at a record.
Did you intend the pun there or no?
What?
Was the pun intended there or no?
I made a pun?
Cake? No?
Prairie, Wayzata, a lot of cake.
Cake? There's a lot of cake. Okay.
No pun.
Okay. Just checking.
But I'd like to say this is going to be it. This will be Eden Prairie's year again. Just because, the Middlestead story came back to win it all again this year after just a kind of crushing defeat last year. But, I wouldn't rule out them getting upset in the first round, and I don't know why I have this, sinking feeling that Hill Murray's just going to somehow win it all again, and it ends with the tournament's most outstanding player being Kyler Yale.
I knew you were going with that one right away. Oh, God, that would be hilarious.
That's cringeworthy.
But he's playing here on Tuesday, and then the tournament's here this weekend, so...
Just for the full-on troll for Minnesota.
That's awesome.
But, I don't know, if I'm going to just put, if I'm putting money down, I'll throw it on Eden Prairie.
Yeah.
But...
I said, Eden Prairie, my dark horse is Grand Rapids.
Yeah, that's a good bet. I like that. You can never count out those Iron Range or up north teams. Whether it's Duluth East, even if Duluth East is having a down year, you can't count them out. And the same thing goes with any of the Iron Range teams. You can never count them out.
Yeah, Grand Rapids, really good jerseys, as I noted last year.
Very, very true.
It's hard to have a bad orange jersey. I've seen a lot of really good orange jerseys.
You can pull it off. You can have bad ones. I've seen my...
I'm hoping to have my second annual jersey rankings.
Oh, it'd be incredible.
I would love to do that again, but we'll see what happens there.
Feel free to rate Monticello really low. High school rival for me. So.
But,
fair enough.
Yeah. So, all right. I think that'll do it for high school talk.
Yeah.
And then I think I'll just kind of open up the floor for some final thoughts on Wild or anything in general. Ben, or did you get it all out?
Well, I did with the whole Wild thing, but I don't know. It is what it is. I'm excited. It's nice to see them dominate teams like they did tonight, and it's nice to have a dominant team in the state, a team that you can actually say is a dominating team, and it's not like some kind of weird Vikings thing where it's all going to fall apart in 3 weeks. So, as I wrote about a couple of weeks ago, enjoy the ride. A lot of bandwagon fans, a lot of people jumping on and joining this team late season, which I don't mind at all, but enjoy the ride.
Everybody's hopping on the bandwagon, so get ready for a lot of hot Vikings-esque takes.
Gross.
But final thought?
I was just going to say it was nice to be fully healthy for all of 10 minutes tonight, finally. I don't think they has had anything post-game on Fulham yet. I think they're expecting that tomorrow. So,
it looked pretty bad, though.
But
I missed that.
No offense to Fulham, but better him than someone like Suter or Spurgeon, which obviously would have been
He went into the boards pretty rough, and it looked like maybe a clavicle or something in the arm. Yeah. He went into the boards pretty awkwardly, so...
As long as you put anyone but Prosser, it should be fine.
All right. My final thought, why don't you like movies? I don't understand.
There's a very complex answer to that, Giles. Well, first of all, I didn't grow up in a movie family. So my family never went to the movies, never. And it wasn't like we were too poor to go to the movies thing. That was probably part of it. But I watched movies at home as a kid. It just was one thing for me. And quite frankly, there's other more mental reasons why I can't basically sit through a movie. It's too much. too much attention span issues, too much anxiety issues. I literally can't make it through an entire movie without having to interrupt it somehow.
Can you overcome that for 2 hours so we can go see Lego Batman?
I probably could, yeah, but now I'm pretty much out of town for the entire week every week, so that's going to make things a little more difficult. But
yeah, that'll make things interesting.
That'll make. Maybe we'll just. I am off on Sundays now, so that helps. So maybe before a podcast one of these days we can.
Sunday fun day.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's not my final thought, but I just remembered as I was.
No, that's fair.
As I was wondering, like I was going to have a bet just to troll you about that fact throughout the entire show, and then I completely forgot about it. That was why my intro was from Monsters Inc.
Oh, because I had no idea what it was.
That was incredible. You asked, you're like, "Where's that from?"
I've seen the movie actually. I've seen it. Because I have little brothers, so, but I didn't recognize it, obviously.
Actually, I think I'm just going to roll with the Disney movie opens, because next week I could probably do some, but then the next week I'll probably have a Beauty and the Beast theme since the remake is coming out. Yeah. Don't roll your eyes at that.
Live action, though? Gross.
But Emma Watson.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, that's nice.
He took the words right out of my mouth.
I can find pictures of her on the internet, too, but
Hey.
But live action? Come on. You got this giant,
It's the new 3D trend.
Man buffalo thing.
Everything's going to get remade. Just accept it.
Okay. Reason number 34 why I don't like movies. There you go.
Well, okay, I'll admit, movies are going downhill in that regard, so you'll only get about 2% of good ones.
Exactly.
Get Out, new one, really good. I saw that recently, so if you haven't seen that yet, go see that one.
Go see the Best Picture winner, La La Land.
Oh, wait. No, it was actually
Moonlight.
Arrival.
I literally could not remember what the actual movie was.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, enough movies. Actually, that was my final thought. To hell with it. Right. Thanks to Brett for coming on out and joining us. We'll obviously have him back on at some point down the line.
Sure.
I don't know. At some point, it'd be fun to have a super show, but that would just take so much planning on there. Yeah, so much planning on our end that. Oof.
We could do something like that. We should work on that.
Yeah, that'd be a fun idea.
We should work on that. I've got an idea.
Maybe a playoff show roundtable.
Right.
But anyway, sorry, we're not going to the playoffs. It's not in the bag. But no, thanks for Brett
thanks for having me.
Coming out. Is there anything you want to plug or where we can find you on the interwebs?
So basically I'm on Twitter at B_Marsh92. And then in my bio is the link to my site with Gone Puck Wild.
Cool.
It's probably the main two areas where you'll find me the most active.
I feel left out. I'm the only one at this table who's not a Gone Puck Wild alumnus or active.
Yeah, that's where I started. I wrote 2 articles for Gone Puck Wild and was on to Wild Xtra after that. So
yeah.
I did the reverse, Brett.
Yeah. All right, so I was going to make a jab, but I thought better of it, so I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't want to do that. It just ruined my week. But anyway, all right. So again, thanks to Brett for joining us. You can follow Ben and I on the Twitters at Giles Farrell, at Ben Remington. You can follow our podcast on Twitter at GATG Wild Podcast. Feel free to subscribe to us on the iTunes. Give us a nice iTunes rating. Thank you to the few of those who did this last week. There was one that was a little questionable, but
I was going to say
we still got 5 stars, so I guess to hell with it.
That was a great review.
Yeah. So, you can also find us on Libsyn or Stitcher or just our show page on coldomaha.com. Wait.
Wait, is it zone coverage MN now? It'll probably
Tom, help.
It'll probably direct them if they go to.
Tom's listening, so he'll be sure to correct me because I have forgotten what the proper call sign is.
We can't keep up with all these changes that Tom makes.
Anyway, so you can find us there. You can also find Ben and I writing there at Cold Omaha /zone coverage. I have literally forgotten what. Tom spelled it out for us the other day, and I think I needed to take a test on it or something.
It's going to take a while.
Yeah. He probably won't like that I said that. But anyway, that's where you can find us. So yeah, that'll do it for us. We will be back next week with another lovely show of the Giles and the Goalies podcast. So again, thanks for the listen, and we will catch you next week.
Later.
St. Paul, Minnesota. Minneapolis, Minnesota.
We are ducks, and ducks fly together.